Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet. Voice you know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by the Family Forest Carbon Program, where we help family forest owners get paid to improve the health of their woods. Powered by Soy Biodiesel, heading to Columbus today for the first day of the 97th Ohio FFA Convention. Our coverage from the convention is all thanks to Wilmington College. Check them out at wilmington.edu. Joel kicks off our coverage.
The 2025 Ohio FFA State Convention going on Thursday and Friday of this week in Columbus. And there, one of the key awards is the Star State FFA degree, some of the highest honors an FFA member can earn. And this year, the Archibald FFA chapter making history with not just one, but three finalists in three different categories. Titus Rufinacht, Bailey Lumbreezer, and Aaron Miller, all recent graduates of Archibald High School, are headed to the stage at this year's convention. Rufinacht, a finalist for Star Farmer after years of raising cattle and managing row crops.
So my SAE project includes multiple things for this. I have a barn of cattle that I raise from calf to steer. I've done pretty well with my project there. And then I also have my crop project. So I have corn and soybeans. This last year I had 30 acres of soybeans and 10 acres of corn.
Lumbreezer, a finalist for Star in Agribusiness, started her own company called Bailey's Braids, making handmade horse tack.
I try to keep my prices a little bit lower, but my products are also more customized, more personal, and higher quality. More people are willing to buy from me than from other places.
Meanwhile, Aaron Miller, recognized for his work in livestock care as a finalist for Star in Agricultural Placement.
So the first one I worked for raised feeder calves. So we got them from about 12 weeks old and then raised them up to about 500 pounds. And then where I'm working now is, I guess, kind of a step above that. We get them at 12 weeks and then raise them out as fats, steers for market to go to the consumer. And then a lot of it's the feeding procedure just on a higher level.
Their advisor, Ryan Sell, says the accomplishment, one for the books.
I've never had one student qualify for the Star Farmer Award before, let alone three at one time. So this is, for me, I guess personally in my career, this is kind of a big deal. But I think the bigger thing is it's a big deal for the program, for sure.
Our own Brianna Smith has the in-depth story online at ohioagnet.com. And follow along with this year's convention coverage thanks to Wilmington College. More from them at wilmington.edu. I'm Joel Norwood reporting.
And thanks, Joel. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
Keep the umbrella handy here nearby. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio Ag weather update. No major changes in the short-term part of the forecast, but unfortunately, I do have some changes for you in the intermediate term forecast, and they're not ones that you're necessarily going to like, I don't think. But here near term, like we said, rain coming today. It's been well advertised. I'm looking for anywhere from a quarter to 1 inch across 100% of Ohio. That's it for your Thursday. Welcome to May. Here it is. Now, changes. Well, they're coming tomorrow. Moisture wants to linger over Ohio tomorrow. We can see another surge that gives us anywhere from a few hundredths to maybe half an inch with 80% coverage in Ohio for tomorrow. We had been talking about clouds lingering. Now I'm saying moisture. And here's the big one. Saturday, we were supposed to be sunny, warm, and dry as high pressure settles in. High pressure still is coming across the upper Midwest, but this frontal boundary wants to stall out near the Ohio River, and that's going to continue to throw clouds and moisture, I think, into Ohio into Saturday. So Saturday may not see much sunshine. As a matter of fact, I am saying additional rain is possible. Let's add some insult to injury, shall we? Cutoff low may try and form over the southeastern United States, and we could see some southeast backflow rotating in through Sunday and into Monday. I don't think it's going to be a long-term pattern like this, but one model is starting to trend that way. So I'm going to tell you at this point, watch for just some clouds to be around on Sunday, and then next week, the warm, dry weather, I'm still looking at that pattern trying to emerge. But I'll tell you at this point this morning, I cannot guarantee it. There are some funky things trying to come together in the atmosphere. I need another couple of days to try and figure this one out. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Let's check in with our weekly update from the Ohio Soybean Council and your checkoff dollars at work. Here's Dusty Sonnenberg.
Joining me is Laura Lindsay. She's a soybean specialist with Ohio State University Extension, and she's here to give an update on the Battle of the Belt.
Sure. So we have our three locations. We have Wood County, Wayne County, and then Clark County. So two northern locations and one west central location. Our northern locations planted really early this year. Last year was too wet to get those early planting dates. But this year, both locations planted on March 27th. So that's the earliest we've ever done. They're getting close to being out of the ground, but growing degree days accumulation has been a little slower this year. But they're getting ready to come out of the ground soon. And then our second planting dates at those locations were in the ground mid-April, somewhere between April 16th and April 18th. Soils were still cool at planting at Northwest location. It was in the mid-40s. This year, our location that was slow to plant was our West Central location. And if you farm in West Central Ohio, you know it's been really, really wet from about mid-March to mid-April. But we did get our first planting date in on April 18th.
And today's update brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff.
And thanks, Dusty. The recent Power of Meat study done by Anne-Marie Roerich, 2010 Analytics, has positive insights on consumer shopping habits. Fresh meat took the top spot in 2024, with beef leading the way. Beef purchases hit a whopping $40 billion, showing a 9.7% increase in spending and a 4.5% more pounds sold. Consumers averaged 54 purchases from the meat department last year. The WHO is also shifting. Millennials aged 28 to 43 contributed the most to the additional units sold in 24 versus 23. Younger generations, including millennials and Gen Z, are all about protein, loading their plates with more beef and other meats. And guess what food item had the best sales growth? Ground beef outpaced strawberries, raking in $15.3 billion compared to $12 billion for strawberries. And if you're worried about protein alternatives taking over, brush those aside. Her research confirmed 98% of households buy real meat. And Rabo Research recently published its semi-annual fertilizer outlook. Their affordability index turned negative in January of 25, but the true indicator of a cycle transition is the 12-month moving average. The 12-month moving average of the index is expected to turn negative by May of 25. The negative index is a leading indicator of reduced consumption, according to the report. However, to better understand future developments, it is essential to evaluate the nutrient indexes and their trends. The Phosphates Affordability Index 12-month moving average turned negative in August of 24 and is projected to remain negative until at least August of 25. Given current market conditions, we expect the index to stay negative for a bit longer than the previous record, leading to a drop in phosphate consumption in 25, the report said. The outlook for nitrogen is slightly better, although it is also negative. Current market conditions support a change as prices are likely to decrease with increasing supply and peak demand for the Northern Hemisphere season nearly over. According to the report, potash remains in the most favorable position. The nutrient has a positive index that is forecast to remain stable, which is very supportive for demand. Stay tuned. Back with more after this.
AmeriHealth Caritas Ohio is your Medicaid plan for more. More benefits, more rewards. We know that good health means more than just seeing a doctor when you're sick. Eligible members can receive extras like home-delivered meals and family essentials, like baby carriers and kids' school supplies. Members can even earn rewards for playing mobile health trivia games. Learn more at AmeriHealthCaritasOH.com and call the Ohio Medicaid Consumer Hotline at 1-800-324-8680 to choose AmeriHealth Caritas Ohio.
Many drugs, like cocaine, methamphetamine, and non-prescription pills, are often cut with dangerous opioids like fentanyl. As a result, nearly 14 Ohioans die daily from unintentional overdoses. That's why it's important to carry naloxone, such as Narcan, a life-saving medication that blocks the effects of fentanyl and other opioids. Over the last 5 years, naloxone has saved over 83,000 lives. Help save lives and visit naloxone.ohio.gov to learn more and find free naloxone. Remember, if you see an overdose occurring, always call 911.
Oil futures extended losses Wednesday morning as worries over economic growth took center stage after the first estimate of U.S. GDP growth in the first quarter of 25 pointed to an economic contraction. It looks like June delivery on the NYMEX WTI was down 94 cents a barrel, near $59.48. The ICE Brent for June delivery fell 93 cents a barrel at 63.32. The U.S. dollar index strengthened by 0.322, bringing it to 99.365. The preliminary estimate released by the Bureau of Economic Analysis Wednesday morning showed the U.S. economy contracting by 0.3% in the first quarter of 25 compared to Q4 of 24. BEA cited an increase in imports, likely tied in part to companies filling inventories ahead of an anticipated tariff, and a decrease in government spending as the main drivers of GDP contraction. Growth estimates have been revised sharply downward because of a new U.S. trade policy, especially those concerning high import tariffs on Chinese goods. The Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta's final estimate for first quarter GDP growth released Tuesday was negative 2.5% for the quarter-on-quarter and down 1.5% according to the gold-adjusted alternative model. The bank will release its first estimate for second quarter GDP growth at 1 p.m. on Wednesday. Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company, excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Like to find information on marketing your beans to LDC? Give them a call at 574-566-2113. Now with your analysis, here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished mixed on a Wednesday. The midweek market movement had beans and the bean complex in general lower, corn and wheat trading a little bit higher overall. Main story for the Wednesday trading period was a big lack of fresh news. That created a pullback on soybeans because the most recent news has all been lack in demand. We actually saw corn and wheat bounce just a little bit ahead of first notice day. Now that the May contract is going to be liquidated, the tight old crop cash corn is offering a little bit support. WASDE should probably have a move higher in corn exports by somewhere between 50 and 100 million bushels, a downward adjustment in stocks. Whether it happens right away in the May WASDE or whether it gets pushed back to July, that's the main question right now. We're also hearing South American cash basis weaken a little bit. Soybean basis levels have dropped sharply in Brazil in recent days, down quite a bit, 30 cents or better. That is all based on a pullback of the Chinese demand coming out of the U.S. and going to Brazil now is maybe being stymied a bit down there as well. As we move forward into other stories yesterday, the trade war between the U.S. and China, once again in the headlines. China is not going to be pushing prices higher against future Brazilian purchase intentions, and so they're not really in a rush to purchase any more out of the Brazilian continent, at least at this point in time. Brokers estimate that Managed Money bought 2,900 contracts of corn, 3,300 contracts of wheat, and sold 4,100 contracts of soybeans. There was a flash reported sale, 120,000 metric tons of corn to unknown destinations. That is not thought to be Asia or the Pacific Rim at this point. EIA monthly or rather weekly report on ethanol and gasoline was showing a little bit of a bump in production on ethanol, 306 million gallons, 2 million more than last week, 5% larger than last year. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Overnight at the open, May corn up 1.5 at $4.68 3/4. December up 3/4 at $4.47, and March $4.61 1/4 up a half. The May beans are unchanged at $10.34 3/4. November up 3/4, $10.19. January's up a half at $10.30. July wheat up 3/4, trading $5.31 1/2. September $5.46 up 1, carried all the way December, and your $5.69 3/4 up 1 1/2. In livestock at yesterday's close, April cattle down 60 cents at $215.75. June down $1.80 at $208.40. May lean hogs 91.92 down 62. June down $1.17 at $98.27. Now, the August feeder cattle were down $1.87, closing at $295.02. September down $1.80 at $293.80. In October, feeder cattle $291.82, down $1.70. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dale Minyo. This is the Ohio AgNet.